Hey, it's JUCK. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. Showtime. Welcome into Buckeye Huddle Prime Time with your boy JUCK. We are live today, as we are every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m., a special Wednesday tonight, the night before Thanksgiving, here on the Buckeye Huddle channel. And I'm guessing not going to be a very big show, as there are probably a lot of people out having some fun. I've heard this is a night people tend to do that. But we are pumped, man. We are pumped here at Buckeye Huddle, putting out more content than anybody else covering Ohio State football this week, is my man Tom and Tony out here grinding like I've never seen them. These guys are putting out like 7 videos a day. It's insane. I'm trying to keep the pace, working currently on a new commitment video as the Buckeyes have landed another one, a flip from LSU and Darius McKinley. And Darius is a stud, man. I'm pumped about this. I love this kid's film. I didn't really think there was a big shot because his older brother Dominic, who was a 5-star that the Buckeyes were after back in the class of 20, was it 25 or 24? 24. 25. Anyway, he's a stud at LSU, the brother, Dominic. And Darius, want to be just like his brother, so he commits to LSU. Of course, LSU currently does not have a coach. Now, who knows if this sticks? We'll find out what Lane Kiffin does in a couple of days here. And if Lane Kiffin takes that LSU job, maybe things change. But as of right now, Darius in the Buckeyes class, another defensive lineman, that makes 6. I love the number. I love the kid. I love his film. I love his energy. He's a tackling machine. He's a stat stuffer. He's got long arms. He's a dude. As far as his ranking, it's not so hot. I think he's a solid blue chipper for sure. 247's composite has him as a top 600 player in the country. I'm not buying it. I think he's better than that. And this also opens up the possibility, of course, of flipping his brother. And his brother, a rising star at LSU, who's played a lot as a young dude. So big news that we were not expecting on that front today. But thank you guys so much for riding us. Please make sure, if you're not subscribed to the Buckeye channel, the Buckeye Huddle channel, that he is definitely a 3-tech. Please make sure, if you're not subscribed, that you subscribe to the channel today. Please like the show, share it anywhere you're watching, so that we can continue to keep things cooking with all the energy. Look, the more people watch, the more it makes us as creators invigorated to pump out the best and most content we can. And that's what spurred Tom and Tony on this week. People liking the stuff, people watching it. They want to do more. Tonight, obviously, it's hate week. This is the last time you and I will talk until the game. And it is going to be a call-in show. If anybody wants to call in, you can go to the description of the video and click the link, and it's just going to be audio. It'll say it's StreamYard, which might make you think your face will be pulled up. It won't. It'll just be an audio call, and you'll be able to watch the show from the green room. So if you're watching on your phone, you can go back there, and you won't have to leave the show and et cetera. So you'll be able to watch it. If you want to call in, it's a good time to do that. Get your score predictions in, et cetera. And again, this will be our last show of the week. You probably won't get much content around the interwebs tomorrow if you are, someone who looks forward to content. Thursday and Friday, there probably won't be much. I'll have some over at Chuck on Bucks. I would imagine anyway that Tony and Tom have saved some stuff for Thursday and Friday. But nobody grinds like us, man. But we are 3 days away, guys. 3 days away from the 121st meeting between these two storied rivals. And we are just 3 days away from the perfect year, the perfect 365 for Ryan Day. I'll explain in a minute. But first, some facts. Thumbs up for JUCK. Absolutely. I'm with this guy. Thumbs up for JUCK. The other day down at the press conference, they gave us a packet. They gave us a big packet. Pretty awesome. I mean, it's just a big packet of stats. And I was going through, leafing through all these stats. The series, of course, the all-time series between Ohio State and Michigan right now is 62 for them, 51 for Ohio State. I call it 52 because it really is 52. You know, you got the one that's stricken from the record, 6 ties. Michigan has obviously played 11 years of football more than Ohio State. So when the series started and Ohio State was trying to get their druthers, Michigan was winning national championships already. And in the first 15 meetings, they won 13 of them with 2 ties. So they were off to a big head start, which is why they currently hold the lead here. And that's just what it is. Ever since Ohio State recorded their first win in 1919, they have won 51 to their 49 with 4 ties. And since Woody Hayes' first year in 1951, Ohio State leads 39 to 31 with 2 ties. As far as games played in the Big House, 33 for them, 24 for Ohio State, 4 ties. And since 1935, Ohio State has taken an unbeaten record into the game 17 times. 17 times since 35, Ohio State has gone into the Big House unbeaten. Their record, 11-5-1. The odds very much in the Buckeyes' favor this weekend. Ohio State, one player from Michigan on the roster, Gabe Van Sickle. Michigan has 7 Ohio players, which is not as much as they used to have, and a lot of that's because Jim Harbaugh felt a little lesser than by taking Ohio players and definitely did not want them, tried not to get them. Since 2000, Ohio State is 16-7 in this rivalry, including a 14-1 stretch from 2004 to 2019. 2019 wasn't that long ago, and that 14-1 stretch was a very long time. It's interesting, though. They win 4 in a row, and all of a sudden you hear things all over the place like Ohio State can't beat them, which drives me nuts. Will that end 3 days from now? It'll be either the biggest relief or the most unbelievably painful loss after, I mean, not just that, but another 3 weeks of real shakiness, just like we dealt with last year. I doubt it'll be as intense because we won a national championship, but it won't be pleasant, man. It certainly will not be pleasant. If the Buckeyes lose Saturday, by the time Michigan rolls into town the following year, it will have been 7 years since we've seen a victory with our own eyes on the field, and that just can't happen. It can't happen. I think this is really big for Ryan Day's legacy, the guy who I think is the best coach in college football. It's a really big day for his legacy one way or the other. If he loses, it kind of cements, look, we're 7 years into his tenure, and people are going to saddle him as a guy who cannot beat his rival. Even though he's done it once, that's just not going to be good enough. A win, to me, signals the turning of the tide for Ryan Day, the turning of the tide against these turkeys. And what it also does, should he win this game, is it caps off a perfect 12 months, a perfect 12 months, a tiger slam, so to speak. From the end of the game last year, Ohio State went on that run with 4 straight in the playoffs, the national championship, and now they've run off 11 straight this year to start off this season, which means if they win the game on Saturday, it will be the completion of a perfect 365 days, 16-0. And they will have knocked off Michigan, beaten Texas twice, beaten Tennessee, 3-0 against the SEC, whooped Oregon, whooped Notre Dame, whooped Washington and Seattle, whooped Penn State. And while it didn't all happen in one season, a perfect 365 is unbelievably impressive in this era where people say it won't be done. And there still is a shot that Ohio State could go through this season undefeated. Could happen. Could happen. And it all started after losing this game last year in 2024. And we've talked before about all the streaks in this game. It's a game of streaks. And I really believe if the Buckeyes get this one done, we're going to see this turn. We're going to see it turn, and it's going to ride that way for a little while. Now, is Ryan Day ready? I think he's ready. I think he's the best coach in college football. On the line for the Buckeyes, of course, a trip to Indianapolis and he wants to play for the hardware. And he says the hardware game starts now. This is the hardware they're playing for game one. Ryan Day looking for his third ever Big Ten championship. And nobody on this current Buckeye roster has beat this team. Should they lose, that's 2 straight classes graduating from Ohio State without a win in the game. Something we used to make fun of them for, how many classes they had in a row that had not, came into Michigan and left without ever beating Ohio State. And that would give Ohio State 2 in a row. And that can't happen. Nobody on this team has played for a Big Ten championship. A Big Ten championship game that would feature number 1 versus number 2. Indiana is going to blow by Purdue, of course. And that's a game we really want to see. And that's another team that needs its comeuppance. The Buckeyes, of course, opened this season against Texas. And, we always talk about how fast the season flies by, but think about that Texas game. It feels like a long time ago. It really does. It feels like a very long time ago and a much different team than the team we see now. The Ohio State team that rolled into the stadium that day, we had a ton of questions about it, man. You had a new offensive coordinator. You had technically not a new offensive coordinator, a new play caller who may or may not have called plays that day, depending on who you ask. A new defensive coordinator, a new starting quarterback, new starters on defense, though most of us knew what we had with those starters on defense. The Nationals didn't know. They thought it was definitely going to take a step back. I didn't think it would be much of a step back, but we didn't know how they were going to gel. We didn't know how Patricia was going to call a defense. And at the time, I don't think many people were thinking that this was going to be a national championship contending team, certainly not a favorite as we exited the regular season, but that's where we're at. I don't think anybody thought that we would have a defense that was going to be better than last year's number 1 defense. It usually doesn't happen like that, but as we enter the final season, the final game of the regular season, the Buckeyes defense is better than last year. And that is an unbelievable testament, not just to Matt Patricia, but to the guy who I think has emerged as the number 1 head coach in college football. That's Ryan Day. Ryan Day needed to hire a defensive coordinator after losing the best defensive coordinator in the country. And what happened? The media did what it does. We all did what we do. You make a big board of potential candidates, a wish list, so to speak. Who would we like to see take Jim Knowles' place as the defensive coordinator? Nobody. And I mean nobody had Matt Patricia on that list as a candidate. And Ryan Day essentially hired him off of the NFL unemployed line. Guy didn't have a job. His last NFL job didn't go good. And that's after his head coaching tenure in Detroit, which was terrible. And for a variety of reasons, some legitimate, some stupid. People hated the hire. I'd say it was about 50-50. I was for it because I thought the reasons to be against it were silly. And I thought that Ryan Day had really dialed in at that point exactly what he's looking for in a coach. And he had a track record that he had shown us of really good hires. So I chose to just trust this thing because I felt like he deserved it at that point. And I felt like the reason that a whole lot of Buckeye fans weren't liking it is because of the reports of him being a jerk in Detroit, as if Ryan Day, the guy who cares more about culture than any head coach in college football, maybe, was going to bring some raging jerk into his organization. Just couldn't see it happening. Obviously, it's hilarious now looking back at that narrative when we see and hear these players talk about Matt Patricia and watch him go up hugging guys before the game. The players just adore him. And on top of his defense, which has just been fantastic, the dude recruits on top of it. And he is a good recruiter. And he's been sensational, absolutely sensational. And the thing I love most about Matt Patricia is he puts guys like, look, every defensive coordinator says this, their goal, their mission is to not jam players into their system, but to mold their system around the talent they have and put players in the best position for them to succeed. They all say it. Few of them do it because it's hard and requires a lot more work. Matt Patricia actually does it. And now we've been able to see, look, the last 5 games, they've done nothing on defense. Nothing. Ohio State has been depending on how you look at it, fortunate or unfortunate to be 20 to 30 point favorites in the last 5 games leading into the game. And essentially on defense, he's done nothing but roll his boys out there and say, go ahead, guys, base defense, smother them. And they have, because they can. But as far as the stuff we saw earlier in the season, we haven't seen any of it. And this dude, Patricia, walks into college football. And in year 1 in college football, he's the best defensive coordinator in college football. And Ryan Day went out and hired that dude off the NFL trash heap. Again, one of the most important things for a college football coach is hires. Who do you got working with you? Talent acquisition. Who's playing for you? Who's coaching for you? Ryan Day is pretty much the best at both. Matt Patricia, another testament to that. A guy who in his 7th year as a head coach has dialed in perfectly what he's looking for when it comes to that staff. When we look at his most recent hires, Bowen, Lachlan, Matt Guerreri, James Laurinaitis, Keenan Bailey's promotion, Hartline's promotion, it's just hit after hit after hit after hit. And I think it's pretty amazing, man. You look around college football, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. And now he knows that his coaches are going to start getting hired away. And I don't know about you, but based on his recent track record with hires, I certainly feel like a whole lot. I feel a whole lot better about the fact that we know that's coming. We know guys are going to start getting hired away. And it feels damn good, man. It feels damn good rooting for a team with a coach so competent and a front office so competent and a strength and conditioning program so confident. The stability at Ohio State right now, it can't be beat. It really can't. And stability in this era with all these changes, it's fantastic. And the way they've dialed in the processes of what they're looking for in coaches, how they've adjusted to everything with player acquisition, it's been phenomenal. And Ryan Day's record as a head coach, unparalleled. We've never seen a winning percentage like that. I don't feel like it gets talked about much. It's pretty unbelievable. The dude's over Newt Rockne. It's pretty unbelievable. People poo-poo it for some reason. I don't know why. We've never seen it. We've never seen a guy so consistently get his team up for overmatched opponents. Tressel screwed up in that department sometimes. Urban slipped up in that department sometimes. Ryan Day never has. And we've never seen anything like this era we're living in college football. It's crazy. And the way he's adapted to it has been damn near flawless. Player retention, player development, acquisition, choosing the right kind of player for his culture. And the culture's amazing. And he's the best coach in college football, man. There's only one other contender. It's Kirby Smart still, which is why I want Georgia so bad in these playoffs. I want them bad. Kirby Smart, by the way, just had another guy get popped, felony charges, doing 150 miles an hour, fleeing police. They kicked this one off the team because he's not a contributor, so he got kicked off right away. Kirby Smart's players at Georgia have a 41% graduation rate. His players don't respect him. They don't even respect him. Ryan Day's the best head coach in college football. Every box he checks it. He's just got one issue, one very important issue. Does he fix it on Saturday? Obviously, one win doesn't fix it. But if you're someone who believes that this is something that has been in his head, that he's not coached this game like other games, if you're someone who believes that, all he needs is to just vanquish that hurdle. He needs to vanquish that hurdle and get rid of this streak. After the game last year, I was of the opinion that if he could get through that gauntlet and win a national championship, he would be different when it comes to this game. I felt that way. I think I said it in the post-game show, man. If he can get through this gauntlet to win a national championship, he'll be different. He'll have given something to the team, to the university, to the state that nobody can ever take away. It'll release some of the pressure, and he won't coach this game so different than everybody else. He won't be so tense. You won't see that look on his face, which doesn't inspire confidence watching him on TV. And, I'm guessing if you're playing or you're coaching with him, probably feels that way too. When he's at his best, he's celebrating, he's free, and he's amazing when he's like that. And it felt to me after the game against Rutgers, when he was talking in the post game, that he seemed a little different, seemed a little free. I liked it. And then down in the Woody on Tuesday, I was paying real close attention to all of his answers and his mannerisms. And it seemed to me like, all right, this feels a little different than last year, I think, but I wanted to make sure. So I went back last year and I looked up his press conference last year before the game. Now, here is his press conference last year before the game. And here is this year before the game. Just a quick little 15 seconds. Take a look at how different this feels to you.
And then, we're finally here. So, because, when you go through the off season and you talk about this game, it's just like, all right, well, how many times are we going to talk about this? We got to get to this game and go play it. We're finally here right now. You got to play through the year, and there's a lot that goes with it. And it's a building process and a foundation, and, we're finally here. So, this is the best part of it. We've been waiting a long time to get back to this week. I'm excited about this game. I'm excited about this team. I love the look in their eye, and that's it. And so, this team right here is a different team. They have a great look in their eye. And I don't want to get too much into the past because we're just focused on right now. What has happened in the past really has nothing to do with what's going on right now. Yeah, I mean, the team who runs the ball is going to control the game.
All right. I'm teasing. It wasn't a lot different. It was obviously there was a lot of similarities. It was pretty funny. The words, especially, I don't want to focus on the past. What's here right now. He literally did the same exact hand gesture. It was hilarious. But it felt great. I got to tell you, it felt great. And I wasn't there last year. I watched it, surely. So he had a pretty good demeanor last year too. He was confident last year. He should have been. But things didn't work out the way he wanted them to. And, there was a big narrative that he wanted to be tougher, wanted to win tougher, wanted to beat him at their own game. And I believed it to a certain extent. As we've gone on and as I've watched that game a few more times, I do understand that maybe it wasn't so much that. It certainly had a lot to do with Will in the second half and after the hit that he took. A lot of it had to do with field position, but I do think there was some of that. I don't think there will be any of that moving forward. What he knows is he should be confident because he has a better team. He has better players. He has better coaches. He's better than their head coach. And he knows it. So he should be confident, shouldn't he? I think he should. And every year, for me as a guy who grew up in the Cooper era in Northeast Ohio, I have unbelievable anxiety for this game. Like, even when Ohio State was dominating this series, the anxiety I feel the week of this game, and it just mounts every day more and more, it's pretty unbearable. And last year, I did not. It was my first year doing the show, JUCK on Bucks, over on my channel. My first year, and I was wondering what it was going to be like for the week of the game. And I had no nerves. And I remember talking to everybody like, man, I just don't feel it this year. I don't know why. I didn't feel it. And we've been big favorites before. I just didn't feel it. And sure enough, I needed to feel it because Ohio State, as a huge favorite, inexplicably lost the game. Well, this year, Ohio State not as big of a favorite, though still a juicy favorite. It's very clear who the better team is. It's very clear. But that doesn't mean anything. You got to win the game on the field. And of course, this year, that starts with a healthy JJ and a healthy Carnell Tate. We heard Jeremiah on the Caleb Downs podcast. Everybody heard what he said by now. Said he had his little thing, should be good to go on Saturday, which Ryan Day was asked in the press conference, should we just watch Caleb Downs for injury updates now? And he laughed, which was interesting that he laughed. We've come a long way fast in the social media world from the time when Carson Hinsman basically was suspended for the bowl game covertly for what he said on a podcast. Even when I started, which was just like 20 months ago, if you wanted to get a player on your podcast, you had to get approval through the SID. Well, it hasn't been like that for a while. It's impossible to fight that battle anymore. This stuff is so prevalent. Now you got players doing podcasts and coaches. Matt Rule has his own podcast. Like, it's just, you can't fight it anymore. So JJ comes out and says that. And I believe from the start that Jeremiah was playing. And I don't think he's limited at all. And I believe that because of the UCLA situation. He played in the first half of the game. He was asked, Ryan Day was, on the Tuesday after that, did Jeremiah worsen his injury? Did his injury get any worse against UCLA? He said no. Well, what's that tell us? It tells us that he was injured going into the UCLA game, and it was an injury that couldn't get any worse, or surely they would not have let him play. So what we were seeing was how he looks after games since the time he started, since he got that for injury in the first place. He's just really sore. Did he play it up for the cameras? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of gamesmanship. Of course, Ryan Day was asked extensively on Tuesday about the injuries again, and he's not going to answer it, but you got to ask it anyway. But he said they were both getting mental and physical reps. Was that a slip of the tongue, the physical reps? I don't know. But my opinion on JJ was that he was always going to play. What about Carnell? It was a really interesting situation. Carnell goes out for warm-ups, feels a little tight. He's dressed on the sideline. We're watching the game. He's not playing. What happens? And then it's just nonstop rumors all the way up until here we are now. He will have had a month off if he plays against Scum on Saturday. And I got to be honest, I think it was over precaution. I think he's absolutely playing. I think he will be 100%. I expect them both to be full-fledged monsters on Saturday. And that's bad news for anybody. Certainly bad news for them. Their defense isn't very good. Not like it was last year. Certainly not like it was the year before. Let's go over what this game may look like, starting with them on the offensive side of the ball. Bryce Underwood, the freshman that Larry Ellison and his old lady and Dave Portnoy bought from Michigan, the freshman from Michigan who said he didn't want to go to Michigan because of their lack of quarterback development. I don't know how good his development is going on there now, but he's certainly a very naturally gifted quarterback, no doubt about it. And he is getting better. Everything isn't a rocket ball like it was earlier in the season. He's developing a little bit of touch. He's kind of feathering balls in. And he has now got his team in the potential. There's some arguments about whether or not they can make it to the playoffs if they win. But regardless, he's got his team in position to potentially make it to the playoffs in the last regular season of the game, which to me is a massive deal. I don't care what schedule you play. You look at USC last year, right? USC lost all these close games and games they probably shouldn't have lost. You could have seen that happen this year at Michigan. They had a weak schedule. Ohio State had a pretty weak schedule. They both did. But the fact that they won against all those teams they were supposed to win against, this doesn't always happen. And they were able to do it. The only games they lost, the games they were not favorites in, Oklahoma and USC. That's impressive with a true freshman quarterback. For some reason, a lot of the Michigan fans don't seem to be happy about this, don't seem to be happy with Sharon Moore. I think this was their ceiling, and they reached it. Going into this game at 9-2. Now they got themselves a shot, man. That's all you can ask for with a true freshman quarterback. They've averaged 196 yards passing a game, 223 for Ohio State. Ohio State's averaged 270 passing. They've averaged 170. The Buckeyes have scored. My notes are wrong here. That can't be right. Michigan's had 8 runs of over 40 yards. That's pretty impressive. They do the thing where they just keep chopping wood, and even if they're only rushing for 3 yards a carry in a game, they eventually pop off a big one. Will that happen against Ohio State? We've seen the emergence of Andrew Marsh, who's an excellent wide receiver for them. That's a guy that Brian Hartline wanted. It's a guy I really liked out of Texas. The chemistry he's developed with Bryce Underwood is for real. We know Bryce can run the ball. Can he run the ball with Arvell Reese spying on him? I don't think any quarterback can run the ball with Arvell Reese spying on him. When Arvell Reese was able to shut down Damon Williams from running the ball, and he basically gave up on the idea of running the ball, that to me was, okay, nobody in the country can run the ball if Ohio State has Arvell spying. Now, you don't want to use him in that way if you don't have to. I suspect we'll see a lot of Peyton Pierce this game, a lot of 3 linebackers. I think the key here is to load up and stop that run and make him beat you with his arm and confuse the heck out of him on the back end, which we know Ohio State has the capability to do to veteran quarterbacks. He certainly is going to be, he's going to have to prove, look, if he can beat Ohio State's defense with his arm multiple times and lead them to multiple scoring drives, it'll be very, very impressive. Let's say he can do it 3 times, 2 touchdowns and a field goal drive. He leads them to 3 scoring drives. I think that would be impressive. That's 17 points. The Buckeye defensive ends, I believe, will play this similar to the Washington game, caging him in, keeping him in the pocket. And I expect another big game out of Caden and Caden, just like against Washington. And I think Matt Patricia is going to put him in a blender. And if it doesn't work out, more power to him. But I still think the ultimate ceiling is 3 scoring drives. And maybe it's 3 touchdowns. Maybe it's 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Maybe it's 2 field goals and 1 touchdown. But 3 scoring drives, which is a max of 21 points at the high end. That's, I think, the ceiling for them on offense. What can Ohio State do on offense to them? How good is their defense? They are the 29th ranked defense in the football efficiency index, which isn't great. They're 15th in points per game allowed, 17.9. Ohio State first, 7.6. Rushing yards allowed per game, 94, 3 yards a carry. Ohio State allows 80 at 2.7 a carry. Total yards per play, always an important one and a very telling one. Michigan allows 4.7 yards per play. That is 16th in the country. Ohio State number 1 in that stat, 3.8. Buckeyes are number 1 in almost all of these things. Ohio State allows 12.7 first downs a game. That's second to Indiana. Michigan 26th. They allow 17.5 first downs a game. And yards per game, 206 allowed for Ohio State. Oregon is second with 248. That's how far Ohio State is ahead of everybody here in yards per game allowed. 206, second place is 248. Michigan 17th at 302. So without a doubt, they're facing a different animal in Ohio State here. How about the best offense that this Michigan defense faced? It was USC. And USC tore them up. 262 through the air, 224 on the ground. And if you remember that game, they had a walk-on running back at the end of that game who was on the injury list. They got fined for playing the kid. That's how far down the depth chart they had to go. And they were still gashing him. And Bryce was giggling on the sideline down 34-10. Against the better teams they played, against Oklahoma, they gave up 270 passing yards, 138 rushing yards. And if you remember, John Mateer was the leader for the Heisman coming out of that game against them. Ever since that game, he got injured for a couple games, and people thought maybe it was lingering. I just don't think he's that good. They certainly allowed him to look really good. Against Nebraska, they gave up 308 yards passing to Dylan Raiola. Washington, it was Damon Williams' worst game. He still passed for 200. Michigan State even threw for 190 and rushed for 115 on them. But Oklahoma, USC took easy care of these guys. And again, I can't knock their schedule much because Ohio State's schedule sucked as well. But it's clear who the better team is here. It's clear who is 9-2 as a product of their schedule and who is 11-0 in spite of their schedule and would be 11-0 against almost anybody's schedule. It's the Buckeyes. But what is the offensive game plan that beats their projected ceiling of 3 scoring drives that I have? What's the offensive game plan for a Buckeye win? What would I love to see? What we know is coming is pressure. They don't do well with 4-man pressure. They usually got to bring somebody to get some heat. Wink Martindale is a guy who loves to bring heat, especially against a young quarterback. He's coming. We also know that we're going to see a lot of stunts and twists by the defensive linemen after we saw the Buckeyes struggle with that against Wisconsin and against Purdue. The offensive line looked bewildered at times, and we've talked about this offensive line playing good the last 2 games against UCLA and Rutgers, particularly in the rushing game, but with the caveat that they were playing 2 pretty poor rush defenses, one of them really poor, Rutgers. And that's true, and you got to factor that in and temper your excitement. But I also think it was very clear that those running backs were creating on their own. They're running better than they have all year, and that was very evident. It was very evident that Bo is freelancing a little more. He's allowing himself to be a little more creative, to go off script. Isaiah is just steady Eddie, and James is finally, the energy and the gusto that he's bringing is different than it was in the beginning of the year. And that's been going on now for 3 games in a row. And I think we'll continue to see that. So now you got 3 dudes, man. You got 3 dudes, Bo clearly on a different level, but they're 3 reliable dudes who can get you yards, who can all catch out of the backfield, have all showed us they can be reliable checkdowns, and you're going to need them. But the key with the offensive line here that gives me hope moving into this game is against Wisconsin and against Purdue. It wasn't just that they weren't good. It was mental errors, consistent mental errors. And we did not see those same mental errors against UCLA and against Rutgers. That's improvement. That's very big improvement. I want to see a lot of quick game. I want to see those RPOs live. Obviously, they will be. And Julian, look, they haven't always been live. They're live now. And Julian, I think, can execute that game plan perfectly. Now, this is one of the reasons I hated having 5 weak opponents heading into this game, because you had several games where the RPOs weren't on and they were just running in to a stacked box. And it's like, dude, why are we practicing this? You're never going to do this. So now that's less practice he got running that offense, because you had all these cream puff opponents leading into this. And this is why I cannot stand it. But you did, whatever. Those are turned back live. Julian can eat people up with that. And what I really don't want to see is what we tend to see in this game, and that's the feeling out phase. We tend to see in this game, I bet we could go back and chart this for the last 30 years. What you tend to see is this feeling out phase. Ohio State gets the ball. Series number 1, okay. Let's see how the run's going to work today, right? And you see them run, and they run, and they run, and they try to get the feeling of the game and get warmed up. Well, guys, generally it puts you behind the sticks, and you punt the first 2 possessions when you play like that, because they're ready for it, and they know what you're going to do, and they're doing the same thing. It's wasted possessions. It's wasted possessions, get you behind the sticks, you end up punting. Forget that. They are much better coming out, throwing the ball, making them adjust to that and soften it up for the run game, which you can then incorporate. And I think the Buckeyes can paper cut these dudes to death through the air with checkdowns and 7 to 10 yard routes, 10 to 15 yard outs, max clear up the seam, RPOs. They're just as easy as a handoff for Julian. And that's how you open up the run game. You'll stay efficient, like always, but you're using the passing game and letting that soften them up, make them adjust to it, and then you hit them with the run. What I really don't want to see is Ohio State assisting Michigan in doing what they want to do. And what do they want to do? They want to do what every team wants to do against Ohio State. They want to limit the possessions, which has been Ohio State's specialty this year, limiting their own possessions. Now, they talked about this 2 weeks ago. And he said, obviously, the overarching philosophy when you look at everything from the beginning is you want to limit the total number of plays. But now it's just kind of our normal. It's just what it is now because we huddle. We huddle and the guys are used to it. And that's cool and all. But what the result has been by doing that and getting used to that is eating play clock. Obviously, Julian's insane completion percentage assists with this because the clock's always moving. There's no incompletions to stop it. But when we look at the end of every game, man, these dudes got 8 possessions a game recently. 8 possessions. Now, that compared to Indiana, who doesn't run a super fast, so they're getting like 11, right? And they're not a fast team. What I think you need to do in this game is to make sure you don't make it easy on them, where if you get a couple turnovers, they're right in it. You get a couple fluky turnovers and you're only running 8 possessions in the game, you've magnified how much those turnovers matter. If you have 8 possessions and 2 of them are turnovers, well, now you got 6 and they got 10. If you speed things up a bit and you go 11 possessions and 2 of them are turnovers, well, you got 9, they got 13. You're in a much better position. Those turnovers are much less value. And we've been talking about the quick game. I think we've only seen them run the 2-minute drill one time this entire year. Now, a lot of people seem to think they can just turn it on when they want to. I don't know. That remains to be seen. The question is, will we see it? Because I believe if they do it, they will fly down the field. And we are far past now. We're in the postseason now. This is the postseason. This is hardware time. Ryan Day's talked about it. Trying to save plays for later on down the road is over. Like, it's here now. So that philosophy goes out the window. So now it's just a matter of, have you become that comfortable in that? I don't know. Do you need, are you dependent on huddling now? Or can you play faster? Can you do it? If we come out of this game and it was a really close game, one way or the other, we're going to be happy. But if it was a really close game and they only had 8 possessions, you're going to be wondering why. Because if they'd have had 10, I think it would have extended the lead if they win. If they lose the game and only had 8 possessions, it's going to be real rough. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Are there any other pitfalls? Any other potential pitfalls for the Buckeyes? As I look at it, there's 1, maybe 2. All right, 2. Ryan Day was asked about the wide receivers the other day, which is something I don't think we need to worry about because I think, as I said, Jeremiah and Carnell are playing and they're going to be on top of things. But when we talk about the wide receiver depth, what if you do need them? What if I'm wrong? What if Jeremiah is overestimating when he talks in Caleb's podcast? What if Carnell, the cold, messes with his leg? It's not feeling good. Certainly, you're going to have a quick trigger to pull those guys. You've got the playoffs coming up. Yes, you want to win this at all costs, but not at the cost of injury. So now what are you looking at? Obviously, you got Max Clare, who had a great game, just the 4th tight end in Ohio State history to have a 100-yard receiving game, which is just unbelievable. Quincy Porter, we expect him to be back, right? But I thought one of the bigger tip-offs that Jeremiah and Carnell were playing in this game was how Ohio State played those wide receivers in the Rutgers game and how much they ignored them. Just 7 balls were thrown to wide receivers in the Rutgers game. Mylan Graham didn't play till the second half. Just one target for Bryson Rogers. And that led me to believe, look, if you're going to be depending on these guys against Michigan, after what we saw against UCLA, which was no connection with them and Julian, you're certainly going to be spending some more targets on trying to develop that chemistry in game with them. And the fact that they didn't, you don't need to develop chemistry with Max Clare. This offense has been tight end heavy. Remember the first 5 games, it's all we did, tight ends. You're pulling Carnell Tate off the field to throw to tight ends. So throwing a couple extra passes to Max Clare didn't help develop that synergy. You need it with the wide receivers. You didn't do it, which made me believe, all right, these guys are good to go. At least they think they're good to go, JJ and Carnell. However, if we're being totally honest here, and these guys can't go, it's hard to criticize many of the decisions that the Ohio State brass has made this year. But the last time we heard Brian Hartline talk at the Woody was probably after week 3's game, which is different than last year. Last year, the coordinators talked every other week, Chip, then Knowles, then Chip, then Knowles, until later on in the season. We haven't heard from Brian Hartline or Matt Patricia since like week 3, which is interesting. But that day, Brian Hartline talked about wanting to rotate the wide receivers more and admitted it's been a bigger challenge for him up in the booth. He's worried about calling plays, not worried about rotating, but he said they were going to start doing that. Not only did they not do that, they didn't do it much late in games. When we look at the top wideouts here, the top 3 guys, Bryson Rogers, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter, their targets, 8, 12 for Mylan Graham, and 7 of them were UCLA, and 4 for Quincy. That's their targets on the year. Those are the next 3 guys up, man. 8, 12, and 4. Yesterday, when he was asked about Mylan, Ryan Day, Tuesday, yeah, it was yesterday. He was asked about Mylan. Ryan Day talked about how important it is now that these guys are getting experience, and they're getting it now. And I'm sitting here like, dude, you had all year to do this. I mean, you're getting it now. It's a week away, and they might need to play. And they didn't even get much action. As I said, Bryson Rogers got 1 target. Mylan Graham did not play the first half. And I don't understand why this is the only position where we don't see the next crop of guys being groomed. We saw rotation on the offensive line. We saw Ethan Onyanwa, Ian Moore, Josh Padilla, Gabe Van Sickle on the defensive line, Jarquez Carter, Zion Grady, linebackers, Riley Pettijohn. We saw some TJ Alfred this year. We've seen Fahim Delane at safety. Obviously, Devin Sanchez has played all year. The running back freshman took over the room. Nate Roberts, a freshman tight end, played a ton. The only young group of guys that don't play are the wide receivers. Why? So now when you roll into the game and you need to rely on your backup wide receivers, one position that you have 2 injuries in, it's the position with the least amount of experience from the backups. And it sure as hell showed the times we've seen him on the field just recently. It's the only potential pitfall that I can see in this game outside of maybe one other. Julian cannot get slapped around. You absolutely cannot allow him to get slapped around. You can't allow him to take hits. And Tegra Shabola, who I recently found out, maybe like 5 hours ago, as this nifty book I was telling you guys about has a pronunciation guide that his name is actually pronounced Tay, T-A-Y, Tegra Shabola is a guy who's now started 27 games at Ohio State, 27 games. And when Tegra is slightly tired, his fundamentals break down. He leans, and this is why they spell him. When he's fresh, he's generally pretty solid. Now, Josh Padilla has been injured. You had Gabe Van Sickle briefly against Rutgers. He whiffed on 2 stunts. Padilla is further ahead than Gabe. Padilla's been injured, and now rumor has it he's back healthy. He was healthy, almost healthy enough last week, but he's healthy and ready to go. Who spells Tegra? Who do you trust in this situation? Can you trust Gabe yet? Do you trust Padilla coming in cold? It's an interesting kind of conundrum, really, as Padilla hasn't played in a while. And Gabe had a good outing and then a not so good outing. And you need somebody to probably spell Tegra. You don't want to risk him getting tired and his fundamentals breaking down and getting Julian planted, because these dudes will happily take a 15-yard penalty to give Julian the business, and he's not that very large of a man, as we know. That may be one other pitfall that I could potentially see. But in the end, when I look at this game, when I look at Ohio State, when I look at this Michigan team, when I look at the Notre Dame team last year, I look at the Notre Dame game last year, and I look at us going into the national championship against Notre Dame as I want to say 9-point favorite. I think maybe it ended at 8.5-ish, somewhere around there, which is probably similar to where this one comes off at, between 8 and 10. When I look at the Notre Dame team and compare it to this Michigan team, the Notre Dame team had a better quarterback. They had a better offensive line. They had good wide receivers. Andrew Marsh now coming up. Maybe they had a deeper wide receiver room at Notre Dame. The defenses were pretty similar. I mean, they had a better head coach. When you look at it all, the Notre Dame team, a better team that offered stiffer competition, and I felt no anxiety like I feel going into this game, going into the national championship game. I didn't feel this way. The only reason I feel this way when I'm trying to decide, okay, who do I think is going to win this game about the game this Saturday, is because of things that have happened in the past. That's it. So I'm going to remove that and just say, all right, my rational brain, if I'm just analyzing this game, like I'm not a fan of either team, and I don't know what's happened in the past, just looking at this game and this matchup, I'm taking this Ohio State team that is 9-1-1, 10-1-1, 9-1-1, 9-1-1 against the spread. They're undefeated. They're 9-1-1 against the spread. Oh, yeah. I'm taking them to cover. I'm taking them to win big. I'm taking them to win 34-14. 34-14. A statement win, a momentum stealing win. The gold pants coming to everybody on the crew. And this shit's over. It's over. And that's what I'm going with. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Everybody, please like the show if you haven't already. I'm going to scroll through the chat here and see if you guys got anything interesting to add to the convo. My man, Don. What's up, Don? Don, did you get a new hat, buddy? Don, I like your hat. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. He says, Juck, you handsome devil, for those on podcast listening to us. Thanks, buddy. What's up, M. Collegian? How did Walsh do? Walsh whooped Hoban, and our boy Sam Greer got himself ejected. Sam Greer got a couple personal foul penalties, and then he got himself ejected from the game for continually fighting everybody as they were losing. So he has definitely got he's definitely got a great temper on him, which we love. It's similar to Phil Daniels, which is fantastic. And I love it. Timo says, I think Tate is 100, Jeremiah Smith probably 80%. That was quite a limp. Could be, but remember, he was playing with that, whatever he had, he was playing with it. He played with whatever he had. So it was already there, and you didn't see it on the field. Jesse says, it's amazing how much of the world revolves around balls, and it's a fact. Timo likes 23-20 Buckeyes. Doug says if Underwood tries to be tough and get that extra foot, he's going to end up in a tent, which I wouldn't advise in this game, man. I wouldn't advise that from either quarterback on either side. What's up, Eddie? Eddie, Juck, my brother, you've come so far in your YouTube podcast career so far. You were good when you started, but you're really good now. Congratulations. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie, my man from day one. Appreciate you, bro. Yeah, Sane will definitely throw it away before forcing it. I'm with you, Geiger. How good is this, man? When we've been able to hear this in the past, the OHIO going around, unfortunately for us, at that stadium, well, it's going to be on Fox, right? What is Fox? Fox nerfs the noise. They nerf the noise, and I can't stand it. I want to hear more of the noise. For some reason, they keep the noise level low from the crowd and think that we want to hear a little more Gus. I don't want to hear a little more Gus, especially when Gus gets so bored, apparently, at Ohio State games that he calls touchdowns like it's a first down. Matter of fact, he might get more excited for first downs sometimes. It's unbelievable. Doug said, I went to the open practice last year, told Jelani Thurman that I remember watching his dad play, and he said, you must be old. Man, Odell's not that old. I like it, Doug. Snapping the ball at 15 seconds or more might keep the guys from tightening it up. It is going to be cold, right? What's the updated forecast? Anybody seen? Is there going to be snow accumulation or just flurries? Donnie B says, no way. They're not scoring 17. I love it. How do we feel about the Lincoln package? I'll tell you, I wasn't feeling great about the Lincoln package. And then Doug LeMaurice was on with me the other day, and he talked me into it. I felt much better about it after Doug talked about it. So, feeling pretty good about it. You know, if the run game is not working, something you can bring in there, and I feel better about it. Brandingo says, Juck, still confident with CJ Brona. I was expecting a commitment last weekend. I'm not as confident. I was expecting it as well. Do you think maybe he's holding out to see if Lane Kiffin chooses Florida? Perhaps. Is he going to wait it out with no coach? If they don't get Kiffin? No way. And if they don't get Kiffin, which I don't think they're going to, I think he's going to go to LSU, then they're not going to be, they're not going to be hiring a coach really quickly. They don't have anybody ready to go like that. Tyler asks, Chuck, how do you feel about the Chris Henry and Oregon situation? I feel like they are coming. They're offering him even more money than they were before, and I don't think it's going to change anything. That's a kid who, number one, there's some guys that didn't grow up with anything, didn't grow up with money. This guy's never wanted for anything, and you're a little less enticed by that. He wants to be the best, and we have seen over and over, and gosh, what a season JSN is having, what Brian Hartline receivers do in the NFL. And he needs some of that, quite frankly. He needs to be further developed. He's got all the tools necessary. Oregon doesn't have that. Richie, Juck, you think Dominic McKinley portal's over now? I know it's not a recruiting show. Again, I think we got to wait and see what happens with the Lane situation. You know what I mean? It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference when you get a coach like that at LSU and you get all that buzz. You know they're going to be going nuts if they get Lane. They're going to be going nuts. And that kind of energy and excitement can sway a lot of people to do a lot of things, including pump more money into your former five-star who's contributing and his little brother to come back in the class. Like, there's still some trepidation for me about Darius, you know? Anyways, guys, that puts us at an hour and 47 minutes. We ended up getting a pretty big audience tonight, which I was not expecting the day before Thanksgiving. I spatchcocked the turkey already tonight, so it's ready to go, laid flat beautifully. Make sure you spatchcock it if you've never done it before. 2 hours tops. Your turkey will be done, juicier than ever. Don't need to mess with the oil from the fryer. I just found out from my mother-in-law, who's in town, that my brother-in-law fries the turkey in the kitchen. Are you serious? He puts the turkey fryer in the kitchen? Can you look? I mean, forget about how dangerous that is and how many times we've seen those things catch on fire. But imagine the smell of that oil. I can't even imagine this. Insanity. Total insanity. Anyway, it is Thanksgiving tomorrow. I do hope you all have a fantastic time with your family. We will, of course, have a little show over at JUCK on Bucks. For those of you who don't have much to do tomorrow, pop over there, check that show off your list. We certainly appreciate you guys so much for joining us over here at Buckeye Huddle Primetime. Appreciate all your support, guys. We really enjoy bringing you tons of content over here as we've been working really hard all week to bring as much as we can to cover this game from all angles, and we will continue to, obviously, as we lead into the game. Friday, we have a huge show planned, and that show will be a very long one when Tony and Tom get to Ann Arbor. They're going to start streaming a live show. Somewhere abouts in that show, they're going to move location. I'm going to take over that show for about an hour, hour and a half. Maybe Mark will join me. Then we're going to pass that off back over to Tom and Tony when they get where they're going. So we're going to have a nice big long stream on Friday to get you back in the mood, at least have some constant talk and an outlet for everybody to come. Because like I said, a lot of times on that Friday after Thanksgiving, you don't see a lot of content, and you will definitely have some here. So join us on Friday, and it's going to be a nice long stream. I'll be there. All the guys over here at Buckeye Huddle will be there. And tomorrow, check JUCK on Bucks for a new video. We'll definitely have some more here at Buckeye Huddle. Please like the video on your way out if you haven't. And remember, we are in the currency of subscriptions. All of your favorite creators are on YouTube. Doesn't do anything to you, but notify you that your videos are up. The videos you ordered, they're coming up. They're ready to go. And it doesn't cost a thing or sign you up for anything. It just helps us. It is the currency by which we operate, and we need those subscriptions from you. So please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a fantastic evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving. JUCK out.